We always see these influencers and they always do what they can to entertain us. But what happens when the camera is off? Who are they? What do they have to say, and what are some trials and tribulations that they're going through? In this episode, we're going to explore that from one of the most famous National Guardsmen that we have on social media, Sergeant Knucklehead, aka Staff Sergeant Jacoby. Check this episode out. You will be surprised and amazed of what's going on with Staff Sergeant Jacoby. So what's going on? Well, to welcome the greatest celebrity the National Guard has ever seen, Sergeant. Is it actually pronounced Jacoby,
Yeah,
or is that part of
Jacoby.
the skit?
No, it's Jacoby. A lot of
Is
people call me Jacoby, but it's Jacoby.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering. 'Cause I was
Yeah.
like Private Jacoby, and I was like, I wonder if that's his name, right? Because
Yep,
I know,
yep.
like, I'm sure you remember in basic AIT and all that stuff where they like to, how can I say, butcher the names and
Uh,
they're just gonna roll
yes,
with it.
yes, yeah, exactly. There was a lot of that.
Okay, so for those who do not know, who is Sergeant Jacoby?
Sergeant Jacoby is a dude who's they're just turned 38 years old, joined the
Oh,
army at 26, so I joined late. Before I joined the army, I worked at a warehouse.
okay.
I
What kind?
It
Amazon?
was no. Amazon wasn't even a thing back then. That's how
Yeah,
I'm old. All right, I'm
yeah.
old. So like I look back and I'm like, wow. But no, I grew up in a military family. Both my parents were in. I got adopted when I was 5 by my aunt and my uncle.
Okay.
Moved from
And,
Washington State to Pennsylvania. Um, and just grew up in the small town. Went to high school, got out, had kids young, very
mhm,
young. I was 17 when my oldest daughter was born,
okay.
so I had to grow up quick, real quick.
Yeah,
And then I
one
had
hundred
two,
percent.
yep. Then I had two more kids after that. So my oldest is 20. Then Ari's 18, Alex is 16, and then my wife and I had Dominic. He's 4.
Oh wow, you're not playing with getting them out young,
No, no,
huh?
nope, not
So,
at all.
so when you talk about your parents adopting, I mean your aunt and uncle adopting, is that who you consider your parents that were in the military? Is that who you're talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. My dad got out. He retired Command Sergeant Major of the state of Pennsylvania. So like he
Oh,
was the big dog. And my mom got out as a Master Sergeant after 20 years.
okay.
Yeah,
Nice. And you were or you are dual military?
I
Or
was.
never was? Or
I
you
was.
were?
Yes. My wife was in. She got out 4 years ago. 4 years ago she got out. She
Okay.
was active duty at Fort
Hmm.
Drum for the first 4 years of her contract, and then came to Pennsylvania for the remaining 4 to finish her 4-year contract with the Guard.
Oh, okay. So y'all didn't met while in active, y'all met through the guard.
We m- um we met at basic training.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice, nice.
basic
That is
training.
good.
We didn't talk at basic training. And then
Hmm.
we got on the same bus to go to AIT. Ended up in Virginia at Fort
Okay.
Lee, and like
Hmm.
about 2 weeks into it, we bumped into each other. And she stopped me and said something because I think she got in trouble.
Hmm.
So she was like on guard for people who didn't have a battle buddy, and we talked, and then I think a couple weeks after that we started. She claims she made the first move. I don't know
Hmm.
about that, but
Damn. So see, so that's just to show the memes are not just memes, right?
they're not
Maybe
just memes.
sometimes they work.
Sometimes it works out.
Sometimes your battle boot from boot camp goes through. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
interesting. That's a very
yeah, yeah.
interesting
So
story.
she got stationed at Fort Drum, New
Okay.
York.
Hmm.
And obviously I'm in Pennsylvania, so it was long distance for the first few years. Like when we got married, I moved up there for about 7 or 8 months. I moved back here because of my older kids.
Okay.
And then when her contract was up, we bought a house shortly before her contract was up, and she moves here.
Oh, nice. So you
Yeah.
were temporary a depender.
Temporary. Yeah, I guess I was a defender
Oh,
there for a short.
nice. Nice.
Yeah,
You're living every guy's dream, man.
yeah. All I had a job, but like it
Hmm.
sucked. The hours sucked. I barely really worked. I mainly just made her dinner and took her lunch. So yeah, I was a depend. Yeah.
Hey, man, but
Oh,
that's still admirable, right? So, because a lot of people that, especially the people that comes to the that are in the military, especially the ones on the social media, such as yourself, are
yeah.
active duty people that don't have the understanding of the guard life or that balance between citizen soldier. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's challenging, honestly, because so with the guard, there's so many different options, right? So like if you are the citizen soldier, you are obviously what we call M Day. So you go to
Hmm.
drill 1 week in a month, and the rest of the time you're just working a civilian job, just
Yeah.
kind of doing your thing. For most of my National Guard career, I've basically been full time. My
Okay.
first 8 years, I was a mil tech, which is a federal technician. So you're basically you have to wear the uniform, but you're considered a civilian, but you have to be in
Hmm.
the guard to have that job. But I was a mechanic full time. So honestly, I never really lived that whole citizen soldier life because I've always had the uniform
Hmm.
on.
Okay.
I've seen people and I've heard stories about it, and I obviously witness it all the time where so people have to balance that life, and it, depending on what unit they're in with the guard, if it's an op tempo, the op tempo is high.
Hmm.
It's difficult. You have people who work third shifts, and
Mm.
it's a Thursday into a Friday morning. They just got off work, and they have to drive the drill
Yeah.
and be awake and functional for that Friday's drill.
Hmm.
And it's challenging for them. And some businesses that these people work for are not as understanding as others,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But they can't fire them. They can't fire them because they have to go to drill because that causes a whole other legal issue. But
Okay.
it's the balance. It's tough for some of them because depending on their job, it could be difficult for them. But they make it work. And a lot of these units, at least the 2 units I've been in, really great group of people, and they're all coming from different backgrounds, different career fields, and we all come together for one purpose. So it's pretty cool. We end up
Okay.
building that family relationship. I understand a lot of people think guard is just 1 week in a month, and then that's it. They're not soldiers, but like a lot
Mm.
of these like National Guard units I've been in, a PA at least, are no joke. Like
Okay.
they take it seriously, they work hard, even if it's for a few days.
Okay. So when you talk about the federal technician program, how did you end up landing into something like that?
Okay. Well, when I first got back, it's crazy. When I first got back from AIT,
Hmm.
I went back to my civilian job for like a month or so, and I got
Okay.
offered an ADOS job, which is like it's basically a temporary AGR gig.
Okay.
So I did that for about 9 months to a year, somewhere around there.
In a
And then
year.
that's when yeah, so it was
Okay.
just what we call reset. All the vehicles coming back from deployments, we had to reset them. So basically install new parts on all these Humvees. And
Hmm.
I was fresh out of AIT, so like I really didn't know much. So that really helped mold me as far as just learning the basics and understanding how to be a mechanic. Because
Hmm.
when I joined, I didn't know anything about being a mechanic other than changing oil. So
Mm.
that job helped me. And then I moved to Fort Drum. And then when I moved back,
Hmm.
I applied for a temp technician job,
Okay.
and I got hired. And I ended up working there for about 5 to 6 months, and I got hired full time.
Okay.
So it was pretty. I think it was just the right place, the right time. And it was crazy because the shop I worked at was a very popular, busy shop, and I didn't think I was gonna get the job, but hey, it happened. And I was there for 8 years. My wife worked there for about 4 years too.
Oh, nice.
And she was a generator mechanic. So when
Hmm.
she moved here, I got her in as a temp. It was a temp tech when she first started too, and she rolled right into a full-time job.
You know, it's crazy. You mentioned general mechanics. I've never seen a working generator, man. That's
Maybe
not.
I think it's because for one, maybe you just don't know how to turn it on.
Hey, you're right.
Let me
Operator
tell you
error is a
something.
real thing.
It really is because like so the newer generators, especially there's a switch. It's like a kill switch,
Okay.
and we to shut it off. Everybody would just hit that switch to turn it off. Well, that
Hmm.
isn't a switch you really should do. It actually is supposed to run the generator to the ground. Like if something
Oh.
happened, she taught me that, and I was like, oh, well, I've been doing it wrong this whole time.
Yeah, whole generation of soldiers has. Everybody, I turn off the generator. Beep.
Yeah, exactly. So it's she's really good with with electronics. That's really more her thing. I'm not like
Uh-huh.
electronics, not really my thing.
So the secret is to burn it to the ground.
Yeah, burn it to the
Okay.
ground. Yeah,
Sounds good. Sounds good. So you went from the technician program and then you went AGR. Is that correct?
I went AGR. Yeah. So I rolled into I applied for a 92 Alpha, which for us is logistics.
Okay.
To get my foot in the door, and I didn't think I was gonna get the job. I was like, oh, I'll start applying for AGR jobs and
Hmm.
see what happens. Well, I
Okay.
went and I killed the interview, and 2 days later, I got a text saying, "Hey, congrats! Don't tell anybody I told you." And I'm like, "Oh." So I got the job, but I started it like 4 months later. It took them forever to like actually officially tell me, but
Yeah.
so I did that for 2 years with
Mhm.
and I hated it.
You
I've
hated it.
never really hated a job, but I hated this job. It
Really?
was,
Why
yeah, I
was
hated
that?
it. And I just, if well, for one, so the unit I went to, the leadership and just the people I was dealing with, trash.
Okay.
And just a lot of negative stuff. I'd come home stressed, grinding my teeth at night,
Hmm.
and it drove my wife crazy. And it was just all in all, it sucked. And had been a mechanic for so long. Then
Okay.
I go to just being somebody who was trying to do paperwork that I hated to do, and I had to go pick up
Mm.
parts and take them all over the place. And
Okay.
it did. So um, after I think about a year and a half, it was crazy because when I started with the unit, we immediately got put on a DC mission
Yep.
for 30, I think I was there for 30 days.
Yeah.
I then went to school,
Okay.
492 Alpha, came back, then there was a Philly mission
Hmm.
for riots, came back, and then we went to Fort Pickett, which is where we trained for three weeks, and then NTC, all within like probably about a year. So I was barely
Yeah.
home, and
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I need to go. And I tried to apply for a different job.
Hmm.
It was a training NCO job, but they told me,
Hmm.
oh, you need to be in your current position for 36 months before you can leave to go anywhere else. And I had been sitting E5 for a few years, and I was like, I want my six,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna get my six staying in this E5 position.
Right.
So I had them. I was the armory I worked at. They had a um recruiting team there, and I had always talked back and forth with the master sergeant that led the team.
Hmm.
And I said, I talked about it, and I came home one night, talked to my wife. I think it took 2 weeks to
Hmm.
convince my wife to let me go recruiting.
Why is that?
Because all the stories that she had heard
Okay.
about recruiting, and
Hmm.
so it was trying to get her to see the pros, not just the cons. And the
Hmm.
pros was, yeah, I'd be working probably some long days, but
Hmm.
I would be home every night. I wouldn't be away at training,
Hmm.
and so I'd be home more often.
Yeah.
Well, she finally agreed, and then we had to
Hmm.
fight, and it took, I think, 6 months to finally get them to do an exception to policy. and then I finally
Okay.
got moved over to recruiting. Went to school and got promoted to E6.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was a fight, but I think this is probably where I'm gonna stay for the remainder of my career. I don't think I'm gonna be a recruiter the whole time, but there
Okay.
with the guard, it's cool because there's so many different positions once you transition over to becoming a Sevier. So,
Okay.
um, after you're a successful recruiter for 18 months, you can then convert to the actual MOS. So right
Okay.
now, I'm a recruiter. I have the badge, but I'm technically still 91 Bravo and a 92 Alpha.
Okay.
But once I convert, I'm officially a 79 Tango. I go to SLC, which is my next level of NCOES.
Mm-hmm.
I end up being able to go to other positions and get my E7. So I could
Mm-hmm.
go to marketing. I could go to what we call RSP, which is drill for
Yeah.
all our soldiers that are getting ready to leave for basic. I could be a training NCO. There's just a lot of possibilities there. So I'm gonna
Mm.
recruit for another year, get my
Okay.
expert badge, and probably call recruiting quits and do something else within recruiting. It's just
Uh,
it's a lot.
oh man, one of the few that has been recruited twice. One by getting in, and the other one you got recruited to be a recruiter. That's insane.
Yeah, yeah,
That is insane. What
yeah.
is the biggest lie you told somebody to get him in? Nah, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
What is the most truth you have bent in order to?
Hmm.
Because so the generation is different, right? So
Yeah,
even from your generation to my generation, when I joined in, I joined at the peak of the war because I wanted to go save people and do all the great things that the army said that we were supposed to do, right? You
yeah.
joined a little bit late. What year did you join, if you don't mind me
I
asking?
was in 2012.
In
2012 is
2012,
when I joined.
and
Yeah.
things had already been dying down as far as operational environment for a little bit. So it's each generation has a different purpose of joining. What was your purpose, and what do you see as the common trends of people coming into the military now?
Okay. My purpose was I was in a pretty deep hole, going through divorce and just a lot. I was driving home one day from work, because I was
Hmm.
in the middle of divorce and I was driving home. I was working 12-hour shifts from 3 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon at this warehouse, and I had to get up at 1 because I was staying with my parents.
Okay.
Paying a lot in child support, barely had any money, and I
Mm,
felt like I was just going backwards. I'm
mm,
driving home one day and I've decided I'm stuck in traffic. I remember this day vividly. I was stuck in traffic on the same highway. I'm always stuck in traffic in on the way home, and I said, "Man, I need a change. I think it's time to do this." It's like I kept putting it off because I had 3 kids and I just didn't feel like I didn't want to leave them.
mhm.
Um, and I almost went active duty. I went home. I told my parents I want to go active duty. They talked me out of it. They
Okay.
said you're not going to be able to see your kids, and they were valid. This is a valid point. So my dad said, let's just do National Guard. Said if you change your mind after your contract is up and you want to go active, you can. But now I look back at it and I'm like, man, it's not as easy as people say it is to go from guard to active duty.
It
You don't just
definitely is not.
you don't just drop a pack, and that's probably the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest thing that we tell people that may not be the most accurate.
Yeah, I
But
like how
yeah,
you said
what
we.
people, because that's the biggest question. That's one of the big questions we get is, hey, if I wanted to go from guard to active, how easy is it? Oh, that's easy. You just drop a 368 conditional release and you out. The unit doesn't have to let you go. We don't
Yeah,
tell them that because it's like, this person's talking about going active duty. No, we got you. We want you to go in the guard, right? You finish your contract. Now, once
yeah,
they finish their contract, their first
correct.
contract, they can go active duty. They can get out and
Mm-hmm.
go. So I told people that. But when I
Okay.
first started, I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
368, you can go. But then I realized it really wasn't that easy.
No, it's not. And you know what though? I will say this. Sometimes it's no fault to the recruiters because I think a big
No.
difference between the active duty and the active component recruiters and the National Guard recruiters is that in the Army National Guard, you can be an E4 promotable and become a recruiter. But if you only spend the time as an M-Day, a part-time soldier, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out the year, you don't fully understand the processes and how all that stuff
Yeah.
works. So we just go off the old, oh, I heard that this, so this is a selling point. Let me
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
them,
Let
right?
me tell them this. Yep.
And then when you start learning how the processes work and get more into the weeds of things, have relationships with people like readiness NCOs and S1s and stuff, you're like, oh wait, that's not that easy.
Yeah.
And especially me, I was a readiness NCO at the state. I would get these Joes coming straight from boot camp. My recruiter said I can go active duty as soon as I got to my unit.
Yeah. That's,
Thanks a lot,
yeah.
Sergeant Jacoby. You know,
Yeah. 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 It's tough. Like, and honestly, like they say that it takes one applicant or one of your enlistments. All it takes is one of them to say a bad thing to you about you to somebody else, and it can ruin your career. And it's not necessarily true. But you have to be honest with them, because down the road, if something happens and they don't get something that you told them they were gonna get, they're gonna hold it against you. I have one
yes.
guy. I have one guy
Mm-hmm.
who is in my mind, haunts me every day. It
Okay.
upsets me because at the end, it wasn't my fault. It was on him. It wasn't on me. Actually, two instances. Both of them are like best friends, and the one gave me him as a referral.
Ooh.
He gave me him as a referral. The one guy that I originally enlisted, I enlisted him.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, hey, obviously, if you bring me a referral, and they enlist,
Mm-hmm.
I could get you promoted, right?
Okay.
I said, but they have to enlist before you ship, because once you ship, you're no longer with, like, at that point you're on active duty time.
Correct.
So like we can't mess with that until you get back. And by the time you get back, it's then called, you end up getting promotion points, not a promotion.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a stipulation. Well, he must have forgot that. Because when his friend
Mm.
enlisted, he had already been gone. And because it was a process, he needed a couple things. He didn't need a waiver. I think he just needed like a tier eval, because they both were from Jamaica. Great,
Okay.
awesome dudes. I love working with them, but like he would text me constantly saying, when am I getting promoted? When am I like, and I kept telling him the same thing. Like, you can't. He enlisted after you left, and I told you that. So like, he was talking to people there, and they were telling him, oh, we got promoted, but they were active duty. I
Yeah.
said, you're guard, it's different. And he didn't understand that. And then his friend um told me he had college transcripts from Jamaica,
Okay.
that he could bring to RST before he shipped for basic, so he could get
Mm-hmm.
promoted. I'm like, awesome. Take him to RSP, and they'll see if they qualify for, if it's an accredited school, so you can get promoted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he dropped them off the day he shipped, and they ended up finding out that it wasn't an accredited school. He got back
Mm.
from training just recently, and I heard word that he was telling one of the guys I know, one of my other NCOs, that he
Mm-hmm.
has beef with me because he didn't get promoted because of his college transcripts. And I called him, he didn't answer. I texted him, I said, hey man, like, I understand you're upset, but I don't appreciate you dragging my name through the mud for something that was out of my hands.
Uh-huh.
That's the stuff that upset me, was like, hey, I was honest with you. At the end of the day, that wasn't my fault, but
Mm-hmm.
they end up they need to blame somebody for it.
Correct.
So it ends up being a recruiter.
It ends up being the recruiter. I still hate mine to this day. I'm just joking. He's a good dude. He's a good dude. Still talk to him actually. But well, one thing that it's an interesting thing that you mentioned that, but also like as we mentioned at the beginning, right? You are the biggest celebrity the Army National Guard got. So how impactful can one negative review be?
Honestly, it can't it can't. I deal with negative comments all the time. And negative, but
Mhm.
I don't think one would really taint any of that. It's just
Mhm.
that's how deeply invested I am to this job, is
Okay.
that it's gonna affect me. and
Okay.
I have to, I know I couldn't have done anything to change it,
Mm-hmm.
but now I look at things like, okay, maybe I can handle things differently. It's just a learning. I use it as a learning experience at the end. Like, obviously, all
Mm-hmm.
right, if this person tells me he has college transcripts, I need to ensure that that person knows, hey, if it's not accredited school,
Okay.
we're not going to be able to promote you. So that's what I've been doing
Mm.
since that. But it's just
Okay.
something that kind of got under my skin.
Yeah.
Like I said, negativity is something that I deal with on a regular basis, especially on social media,
Mm.
because that's just how people are. And
Okay.
they're going to be in the comment section saying negative things. There's going to be people that I bump into that have comments about me being on social media when I'm an NCO.
Okay.
It's just stuff. It comes with the territory, I guess.
So, so I'm glad you brought up social media. Let's talk about that, right? So you're not just Sergeant Jacoby, the AGR, the one that went recruiting after I went on your live and I told you not to. Just by the way, I just want to
Yeah.
put that out there, right?
Yes.
I told you not to, and I try to
Yeah.
recruit you for
Yeah.
the for the top, but it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. We're still friends, right? So, what one thing that is to think about. So how did this whole social media process started? Because you're not no chump off the street, like people. I will tell you this because I work in a joint environment and people know who you are in all branches, so you're doing your thing. So how
Yeah.
did that process begin?
It's funny. It began at a lake during I think it was Father's Day or something. I don't remember what we were there. We were at a lake. Shortly before that, it was during COVID too.
Mm-hmm.
And my son was like, "Dad, you should get TikTok." Like at that point, like social media was really just posting pictures, and that was it.
Yeah.
Um, so one day we're at the lake and we post this stupid video. It was so
Mm-hmm.
stupid. It was some trend that was going on, and I think it was literally my son at the lake doing this, whatever. I don't know what it was, but it went so viral. Like I woke up
Really?
the next morning and I'm like, holy, it was at like 1 million views, and I'm like, oh man, this
Oh.
is crazy. And I started getting more interested in the app and watching videos, and I started seeing people in uniform. At
Mm-hmm.
that point, barely anybody in uniform was on social media
Correct.
doing videos like that. So I was like, I want to do this, but I want
Mm-hmm.
to do it where I can be in uniform, make people laugh, and show a little bit of the fun side of the military.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do some skits and see what happens. Did a
Okay.
couple skits and they all went viral. And I said, all right, well, this is it. This is what we're doing. And it kind of just progressed from there. And and I think I have my wife to thank for this, is that I've tried to stay on the same path with the social media as far as my content.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really switched it up. And she always told me, like, you need to don't be on social media getting half naked
Yeah.
for other reasons. Yeah, or I'll kill you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You gotta hide all that perfect body, right?
Yeah, right. But yeah,
The
so it just like I said, it progressed from there. And before I knew it, I think when I hit 50,000 followers, I blew my mind. I'm
really.
like, oh wow, didn't expect it. And then I started getting like people would start recognizing me. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
back then, it really wasn't as much. Now, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Even civilians.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm driving like I was driving through the gate at the on post yesterday, where knew where I live, and the security guard who isn't even in the military was
Really.
like he saw me pull up, and I don't even know how he recognized me right away. I hadn't even pulled up to him yet, and he knew who I was. So
Oh.
it's crazy how far it's come. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's nice. It can be a bit overwhelming at times because when I'm away, when I'm at school, the last school I went to, recruiting school, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I didn't really get. The only time I really had alone time was when I was in my room. So I would
Mm-hmm.
like stay in my room because
Yeah.
if I go out, everyone's like, "Oh, Sergeant Jacoby, let's do a video, let's do that." I love it. Don't get me wrong, but there's
Mm-hmm.
times where it's like, when I'm in the gym,
Mm-hmm.
people would either stare at me or talk to me while I'm like mid set, and I'm like, give me like 5 minutes, and I'll be able to talk to you.
Yeah.
I love it. I love being able to I love that everybody loves my content. And there's a lot of good things that people say about it, but it can be overwhelming at times.
Oh, I
So
bet.
yeah,
I bet. As a matter of fact, I ended up when you went through recruiting school. I actually knew because I had some mutual friend that went. I can't remember her name right now, but it's a mutual friend that posted her profile picture with you, and I was like, so now it got me
yeah.
thinking. Is like people do not sometimes realize that you're still a normal staff
No,
sergeant in
staff
the
start.
United
Yes,
States military,
yes,
and you also have to go through your process
yeah.
of learning,
Hmm.
right? And sometimes where it comes to this, like, okay, am I doing it or am I getting that favor, right?
Yeah, and that's another reason why I joined the military late as well,
Mm-hmm.
because my dad, like I said, my dad was command sergeant major of the state. I didn't want to live under that
Ugh.
shadow, and I didn't want to hear the, oh, you got this because of your dad, you did this because of your dad. I
Correct.
didn't want to hear that. He retired in 2004, so I waited 8 years to join. People still
Mm-hmm.
knew him. People still know him to this day that were privates back when he retired.
Mm-hmm.
But um I didn't want to live under that shadow. And everyone's like, "Oh, you're gonna fill. You have big boots to fill." No, I don't. I have my own boots to fill.
Mm-hmm.
I'm my own person. I'm gonna make my own path in the military. And I've done that, and I take
Mm-hmm.
pride in that because I've gotten myself to where I am because of that. And social media, I love, and I think because I just got a new boss probably, I guess, almost a year ago now.
Okay.
But like before him, I had they just swapped team chiefs shortly after I went on a mission. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just like he really helped me see because just recently they were trying to get me to go to a different team, which would be closer to home.
Okay.
And it would have been nice. But he did point out, he's like, the only reason that they want you on their team is one, you're Sergeant Knucklehead. Two, you're a successful recruiter right now, and they're claiming that they're doing it because they want to help you be closer to your home, but they're mainly doing it because of who you are.
Yeah.
I said, yes, but you also are keeping me and not letting me go because of who I am. So
That's fair.
it's a slippery slope here. Like it could go either way.
Correct.
So that's why it's important that I work hard, and I know that whatever happens, I worked hard to earn it, and people aren't just handing it to me.
Correct. So, and you're right. That is a slippery slope. So, on this specific position, how are you handling? Are you moving to
I was
that?
upset. I was upset for four or
Okay.
5 months, or not 4 or 5 months, 4 or 5 days, and then I kind of let it go. My wife, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she was not happy. First sergeant wanted to take us out to dinner to kiss
Okay.
our butts.
To stay or to go?
To stay. Like he was like,
Okay.
I want to talk to your wife and kind of explain to her why we can't let you go. And I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's wild.
She does not keep,
Yeah.
she will spit razor blades at you.
Mm.
Also, it's probably not a good idea. He said, you can give us a
See,
gift card. You can give us
yeah.
a gift card and we'll go out to eat together on your dollar.
Yes, and this is a thing that a lot of leadership doesn't understand, especially when we have spouses. Like, do my wife's also former. I don't know, she got back in. She took a break when she had a kid when we moved to DC, but she
Yeah.
actually ended up getting back into the garden. And this leadership do not understand. You cannot talk to these spouses the way you talk to another spouse because they're pit bulls,
Yes.
aggressive, and that's
Yes.
why we love them. You know.
Yes, yes, yes. So like, I love the fact that she is that way. I just told for the first time I don't think it's a good idea. Like, I mean, if you want to do it, I'll sit there, I'll watch
Yeah.
and eat my steak because I'm gonna get a steak.
Yeah.
But
Eh,
so he was. I was like, let's talk about this again, like end of September. We'll see where we're at. It just
okay.
didn't upset me because I'm like, man, like their exact words were, "Hey, like you are successful. That's where you." Am I allowed to curse or no?
Of course.
All right, cool. You're successful, and so you fucked yourself.
Mm.
I'm like, That's ass
Yeah.
backwards. I'm
Yeah.
confused here. But they warned me about that when I
Yeah.
went to recruiting. They said if you're successful, you're gonna get screwed. If you're not successful, you're gonna get screwed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is what it is, and I'm seeing it
Yeah.
plain in sight right now that I get it now because I see the recruiters that are struggling bad,
Mm-hmm.
how they basically force them out. And it's crazy. It's crazy what they do because they'll be like, they literally convinced somebody to what's the word I'm looking for?
Resign?
Resign. Yeah. They forced
Mm.
him they didn't force, they convinced him to resign, and he still had
Yeah.
2 years left on his AGR contract, which he
Mm.
probably could have rode out,
Mm-hmm.
but they convinced him to uh quit or to resign. And I'm
Ooh.
like, I'm like, man, I don't know how they did it, but they did it. He didn't go to work half the time, and he wasn't
Okay.
recruiting anybody.
Okay.
It would have taken them a long time to fire, because in the HR world, you have to have a big paper trail,
Yes.
basically like an act of Congress to fire somebody. Now,
So
obviously,
yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about that, right? A
yeah,
lot of people believe that. It's just, and again, we serve different positions, right? So
yeah,
the reason why it's so difficult is because once you have orders, it is similar to get rid of somebody. It's similar to what you would call in the active duty to get them a discharge, whether it be
yeah,
general or under honorable conditions or so on and so forth. That's kind of similar process that needs to be taking place in order to remove somebody from federal orders, which are Title
right,
32,
yeah,
Title 10
I would
of the
say,
sort. So it is possible, but the individual has to do something warranted of a discharge,
hmm,
which it could be a process of a long paper trail, like
yeah,
you said, right?
yeah,
All it takes, so a lot of people mistake AWOL with just being gone, with not being
yeah,
present, but
yeah,
AWOL is a big one. The second one would be if you fail to perform when you're at work, you're technically AWOL because you're not performing your duties. You're there, but you're not doing anything. So now
yeah,
you're going into different legalities of not following lawful orders, direct orders, that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
I just want to, because I'm going to guess, right, as the son of the sergeant major, you're probably going to go far, right? It's
I
those
hope so.
things to never listen to the people above us that don't have any document to back it up on what they're saying. Because
Yeah,
that's the thing that I used to hear when I was going through my AGR process, which was, oh, you cannot fire an AGR. So that's why you have these garbage people up in these specific positions because they just hit them there. Right. And I'm sure you're
yeah,
familiar with that.
yep. Very familiar with it.
Um,
Yep.
the truth is, there was one master sergeant, I would say his name, but we don't want to do that, right? But there's one master sergeant that he kind of went out of his way to say, "Yeah, watch me," and he processed through AGRs like there was no tomorrow because he actually worked at the AGR branch for a very long time, so he knew those regulations like the back of his hand. And yeah, so that he showed me that it is possible. So I just look at regulation, look at doctrine. So it's just to
Yeah,
put that out there, especially if you're in your first contract when the probational period. Look,
yeah.
you sneeze wrong, but like bye,
Oh,
it can
yeah,
happen.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
So now, so you talk about this. So that is a challenge, right? That you deal with, right? Because you got to deal with who you are in your off time and the persona that you have on social media, and that is different from who you are when it comes to actually wearing the uniform and performing
yeah,
your duties. Correct?
yeah. That's a big thing is that people, um, some people don't understand that. People are like,
Hmm.
"Oh, he's on social media. He's just a goofball. He doesn't take things seriously." But the people that work with me see that side of me that just I'm working, I'm doing my job, I'm focused, I'm locked in. Um, Playtime is after you work. After the work is done,
Hmm.
I'll make a video or two here and there. With recruiting, I don't have the time that I used to have to
Hmm.
make videos. That's for sure.
Okay.
And I try to, but it's just when I get done with work, I'm home. I'm trying to come
Hmm.
home. And I try not to make a lot of content at home. Um,
Okay.
it was one of the rules too that my wife put out because there when I first started, I was making videos all the time. I
Mm.
was hooked. And that's something that I had to wean off of and get better at was, all right, when I'm at home, no videos, no
Okay.
content. Let's
Mm-hmm.
focus on being home. And with recruiting the first 6 months, actually, I would say I guess, yeah, the first 6 months, but the first 3 to 4 months before I left for school,
Mm-hmm.
I was working, work. And when I came home, I was working. And I was barely locked into having family time because I was
Mm-hmm.
focused on trying to get one enlistment in before I left for school. Because I was
Okay.
AGR, I wasn't ADOS, so any enlistment I got before I left for school was going to count towards my mission when I got back.
Okay.
So luckily, 5 days before I left for school, I got the
Got one
enlistment.
in.
But oof, that enlistment, like that's a story to tell you.
Oh, well, that's one of those lies, huh?
No, no,
Oh, okay.
no. Um, it's wild. Like
Mm-hmm.
we were I dropped him off at Matt's, really good kid.
Mm-hmm.
High school senior. Um, and he wanted 35 Mike. So which is a linguist for us.
Okay.
And that school is like 72 weeks. So
Yes.
in total, he was going to be gone for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
So, I take him to MEPS, drop him off. He's going to do, he had already taken the test, so he just needed to do the physical and enlist. I had never dropped anybody off at a hotel before. I'm like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Just do what you're told here, stay out of trouble, and I'll see you tomorrow. My phone starts ringing. Oh, I wake up, it's like 11 o'clock at night. Obviously, I'm light sleeping that night because I'm nervous.
Okay.
The phone, ding, 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 like 4 different text messages at once. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I jump up instantly, check my phone. It's like, Jacoby, help, cops, now. And it's from him. And I'm like, what is going on? He sends a picture, and it's him with somebody like over him. It's like a head of hair. And I'm like, what is going on? He calls me. He's whispering in the bathroom. And he's like, my roommate is touching me. I'm like,
Oh.
what? Call the cops. I'm like, call the cops. He's like, I locked myself in the bathroom so he can't get in. So I'm freaking out. I call my boss. He's like, get there now, right? I'm like, I'm going there right now. I know that. So I'm getting dressed while I'm on the phone with him. I get over there. There's cops there, and they're getting his statement. Long story short, he got curious, and then he backed out. The roommate
Mm.
was a male too, so they yeah,
Oh,
like
wait.
he
So it was oh, wait. He got curious as far as those type of relationships, and then backed out. But
but but
one
they
was already committed.
the one was kind of committed, but then he backed off when he realized that he wasn't into it. So the cops did nothing ended up happening, right? And then at the end, I'm like,
Wow.
"Do you want me to take you home?" He said,
Mm-hmm.
"No, I still want to enlist." In my mind, I'm thinking, "Let's go!" But I said out loud, "I'm like, are you sure?" I said, "This has been an interesting night." And do you want me to call your parents? And he's like, no, please don't call my parents and tell them about this. I said, okay. And my leadership was like, you probably should tell his parents. I'm like, it sounds like he doesn't want his parents to know about
The
any of that.
situation.
And I don't think I want to be the person to inform them of that. That's not my
Mm-hmm.
place. So we kind of let it ride. He enlisted the next day, shipped off about 3 months later, 2 months later. I got back from school. I took him to the airport. And I had not seen him since. I heard from him. He texts me like once every few months.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be doing good in California, but he should be
Okay.
coming back in a month or two. But yeah, that was an interesting first experience at Maps Hotel.
Oh yeah. Oh, so wait. This was in Maps Hotel.
Maps Hotel. Yeah, yeah,
Ooh,
yeah. Now I'm scared.
see.
Like I still get scared to
Ooh.
drop people off at Maps Hotel to this day. In fact,
Mm.
there was a moment where I didn't do it. I would get up at like 2 in the morning and go pick them up and get them to MEPS by 5:30 so they didn't stay at the hotel. I've had a kid who bailed in at the hotel who just said had his mom come pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna happen. I started. Then it
Uh,
took me a while to get back to taking them to the hotel because it's just you never know what's gonna happen.
yeah, yeah. So, and see, that's why I talk about the different generations and different times. Now, when I came in, the first thing you did is sign that "Don't Ask, Don't Tell" document. It was literally like as soon as you came in, before they even started yelling you and poking your butt and all the great stuff that they do to you in maps, right?
Yeah,
You had to sign a document stating that you will not ask and you will not tell, and this is not what you do.
yeah,
So I think that alleviated issues like that,
yeah. Probably,
but it also, the way that they had things structured, they had us so scared to do anything, such as before you couldn't have family come visit you at the hotel. You couldn't have any of that. So those, I feel, listening to your story, are mitigation tactics that we should probably bring back. Not the
probably
don't
should
ask,
bring
don't
back.
tell, but
No, but yeah,
the
yeah.
not having family come visit and
They
things
have a
of the
lot of
sort.
freedom. They have a lot of freedom at the hotel now. The one that we're at, like they can
Mm,
wander off. They can do this. Like when I went there, I wasn't allowed to leave. You
mm-hmm,
go eat, you go back to your room,
mm-hmm,
and that was it. Like
mm-hmm,
you're there to go to enlist in the military. Like you're not there to party and have like that. That was it. So
mm-hmm,
now there's a lot more freedom, and honestly, I disagree with it.
mm-hmm,
To an extent, obviously, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? There's things. I get it. It's a new generation now, but there's
mm-hmm.
certain things that I disagree with that could probably change um down the road, but you never know.
Which is great. That leads me to the next question. As I talked earlier, what are some of the trends that you see that our people are joining for now?
So the biggest, it's not to fight for your country, that's for sure.
You're
These
breaking my
kids
heart,
could
man.
these kids could care less.
Wow.
They want money. There's a few that are like, yeah, I want to blow stuff up. Yeah, let me blow shit up. I want this $20,000 bonus. I have
Mm-hmm.
not enlisted any single person that just wanted to join to fight for their country.
Okay.
It's
So, what
it's
would be
it's
some of the common
college,
trends? College.
college,
Okay.
getting college paid for. And that's really the biggest one is they get that the college benefits,
Mm-hmm.
or they get the bonus. That's what they want. They
Mm-hmm.
you rarely get you every now and then you get that one that's like, oh, I want to be stronger, tougher. I want to go be able to make it through boot camp. That's a good one. I like that. Like, but a lot of these kids, they just want that money, and you can't
Mm,
really. I get it. You can't blame them. We're offering it.
correct.
Um, but what I don't like is that they come in, they finish basic training at IT, they come back and they're bad soldiers.
Yeah.
They're not motivated, they're negative, they're
Mm-hmm.
complaining about every little thing, and it's like you sign this contract and
Mm-hmm.
you have to fulfill it if you want the money. If you're
Correct.
not willing to fulfill that obligation, and if you're flagged in any way, you're going to lose those benefits.
Mm,
So why not just enjoy it? It's fun if you open up your mind and actually have fun with the unit that you're in. I just
mm-hmm.
don't understand it. But at the end of the day, I understand that they want college paid for. It's not cheap. Not every kid's going to get a full ride to college. So
Mm-hmm.
that's our biggest selling point.
The college.
College, and we can't even offer I hear a lot of recruiters say, oh, we can offer you adventure. Bro, we're in the guard. The furthest you're going to go probably here in Pennsylvania is Fort Pickett or NTC.
Oh
Let's be
man, you said
honest.
it. You said it, not me.
I've been lucky. Yeah, I've been lucky. Because of
Uh-huh.
social media, I've been to Hawaii and a couple different places, but
Mm-hmm.
like, unless you're deployed,
Correct.
which I mean, PA guard deploys frequently. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but you're gonna go to your unit for drill, and that's really it. Or you're gonna go out of state for training somewhere. So
Mm,
like, I always keep it real with them, and then they're always like, "Well, do we deploy?" And yes, we do. And a lot of that'll change people's minds once they hear that because they think one of two things happens. When you mention the guard, they either think you're talking about the Coast Guard
okay.
or they think, all right, well, the National Guard is only part-time and they don't deploy. They just are here with the state for
Mm-hmm.
like hurricanes and stuff. And you have to break it down for them that it's not that simple. That
Mm.
we deploy, and we have a lot of units here that deploy frequently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
So
does the PA guard have the Smurfs?
yeah,
Yeah, y'all do have the Smurfs.
yeah.
So there you go. You tell them, hey, y'all don't want to deploy? Join the Smurfs. That's the
Join the
real
sim-
idea of what the National Guard used to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a
But
couple
that's a
units that like you can put them in that I know that don't deploy.
hmm
Um,
yeah, like
which I
RV.
yeah, like I it's like okay, that's what I told him. Like, hey, if you don't want to deploy, end up going like once you hit E4 and you're promotable, go ADOS for RRB, and then get an AGR kick.
Hmm
I don't want to do that. Well, then you're gonna deploy. That's simple, man. Like, there's only a select few units that don't deploy in Pennsylvania, and the one that was well known is
hmm
actually deploying in 3 or 4 months for the first time
mm,
ever. So
that's scary.
mm, apparently
Yeah.
now these units are that don't deploy are deploying now.
Ooh. Yeah. So and it happens, right? It happens because they changed the way of the Afrigen cycle and all that stuff, and they started looking at the units that haven't deployed, and sometimes because they haven't deployed, they're actually more mission ready
Yeah,
because they're not exhausted.
exactly.
And then they drew the short stick, and they're like, "Oh my god, now we got
Yep.
to go do
Now,
soldier things."
yeah, yes. Oh crap! Now what?
Mm-hmm. And so
Yes.
you talk a lot about family. You seem like you're a family man, which is it's a good thing. And you found different ways to balance between the job and your family in comparison to most military members. A lot of military members, they consume themselves in the military and end up losing their family to it. Okay,
Yeah.
so what
And I can see it. I can see that how I can see how that could happen.
so outside of, because you said that between you and your wife talk about some rules, what are some other rules that you kind of uphold in order to hold a good family unit?
So, I thought it was a small one for a while, but with Dominic, we have with our 4-year-old, I like she would have to take him. It got to a point where she was taking him to daycare and picking him up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I would go to work early, come home
Mm-hmm.
late. So now, unless absolutely, unless there's an absolute great reason as to why I can't take him to daycare, I always drop him off,
Okay.
and then she picks him up, and it's become a routine. Um, and Dominic is so used to it that he's like, "Oh, I know mom's gonna pick me up, and I know dad's gonna drop me off," so it
Mm,
becomes a routine. It's just
okay.
little things like that. She's had to instill these rules because um there's that I think that how you mentioned people can get consumed. With recruiting, that is very, very easy it's very easy to happen because you're chasing that next enlistment.
Mm-hmm.
You get an enlistment, you're on a high, and then you
Okay.
obviously the next month comes and you're on a low, and then you have your leadership pounding you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have next? What do you have next? And not no enlistment is guaranteed. So I think there for a while I was stuck in that, and she had to pull me out of it.
Mm,
And it wasn't easy. I was a hard head. But I think we're getting to a point where there's more balance. Like I will try to make sure that I clean the kitchen or cook or vice versa.
mm-hmm.
I'm still a work in progress though. Like I'm not anywhere near where I should be as a husband or father. And I think that my biggest goal for this next year, especially, is to
Mm-hmm.
improve in that. I've been so like I'm great at work. I do
Okay.
great at work. I could do way better at home.
Okay.
And I'm not bad at home. I'm just saying
Uh-huh.
I could be better. And honestly, that's my goal. Like my boss asked me, I think he asked all of us about 2 weeks ago. He's like, "All right, what is your goal for this next fiscal year?"
Mm-hmm.
And everybody kept rallying, "Oh, make mission, or become top recruiter, or
Mm-hmm.
get one of those jerseys for top 20."
Okay.
Because our state gives out. 20 jerseys to the top 20 recruiters in the state.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was be a better father and husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote it in my book at work.
Mm-hmm.
And then he asked me and I told him that. And everybody was like, oh, we're talking about recruiting. Well, my opinion, and I've learned a lot more. This is, like I said, I'm a work in progress, but
Yeah.
I can't be a good recruiter if I don't have my wife supporting me and having my
Mm-hmm.
back. Because then I'm
Okay.
going to go to work and I'm going to carry it to work. So, that's why I think that's my biggest goal is that if I hit top recruiter, cool. What is
Mm-hmm.
that? What does that give you? The jersey that you're gonna forget about?
Yeah.
A plaque that's gonna go on a wall or go in a box somewhere, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna like your leadership is gonna forget about you next year when you don't make mission or you roll a bunch of zeros.
Mm.
But when you're at home, you can't roll a zero at home.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, like you
It
have to
makes
show
perfect
up.
sense.
You have to show up even when you're tired. And I think that's something that like she's taught me a lot about that too, honestly. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just and I didn't want to hear it. So that's my goal is that and that's like to balance that out and she's helped me a lot with balancing it out and it's tough. Like I think being recruiting is tough because I'm not going anymore. I don't
Mm.
go away to schools anymore. I'm home late
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But I don't go to schools. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna have schools probably coming up this year, but it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be like 2 weeks schools, and then I'm back.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
so that helps out because
Okay.
being away from home for longer, like, because my boss wants to send me to drill sergeant school. That's
Mm.
10 weeks.
Yeah.
I
That's like
don't.
doing boot camp again, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm
Mm.
like almost 40, and I'm like, do I really? And she said, no, you're not doing that. She's like, you're not leaving me for 10 weeks at this point. To go get treated like a private too. Like I hear stories about, I'm like, man, like
Yeah.
what? I get it. It'd be cool to have the drill sergeant hat and have that badge, but like I can get an instructor badge too and go to a 2 week school for that.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm good with that. I would like instructing one day would be cool for me to do. I'd enjoy being an instructor, but
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, that's really my goal. The biggest thing is like being a lot of people, and I talk to people about it too, is
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 older kids.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're older, and a lot of the times they're gone doing their own thing.
Mm.
And it's crazy how quick they grow up.
Mm-hmm.
So like with Dominic, he's 4 now. Before I know it, he's gonna be 10, and I really don't want to miss out on that.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, and first and foremost, you tell Mrs. Jacoby that I said she got a good man, right? You just let her know I said she got a good man because not many military members can actually think the way you do, but I think the maturity level helps. But what you mentioned, your family, there is some skits that you make about making your kids pick a branch or not pick a branch. How do you actually feel
Well,
about them joining the military?
yeah.
Which branch to look
Funny
into?
story is, yeah,
Hmm.
my oldest daughter almost joined.
Almost, or is she
Almost,
going to?
almost,
Almost.
almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened?
We had to, so she had some medical stuff we had to get the paperwork for.
Hmm.
That's what helps is like, she's my daughter, so I know everything about her. So
Hmm.
she talked to me, said, I'm thinking about it. Okay, let's do this. Let's start the process.
Hmm.
Um, I'm all for it.
Which
Um,
branch?
honestly, for me, for my son, the guard. For my daughters, I probably would have pushed her more towards the air guard.
Okay. Okay.
Only because so my let me explain that. Let me explain my reasoning for that. My oldest daughter
Okay.
probably would handle the Air Force better than the Army
Okay.
because of just she's she's not as tough as my older daughter or my younger daughter.
Okay. Okay.
So I think she would have probably been more successful with the air guard. My daughter
Hmm.
Ari is she's tough.
Mm-hmm.
She's tough. Like my wife is tough, and she was great in the Army. And
Mm-hmm.
Ari probably would be a great officer in the Guard, in the Army Guard.
Okay.
Um, it's not something she's ever going to consider. She's made that clear. She
Okay.
doesn't need it because she got a full ride to college.
Mm-hmm. By y'all, right?
No, so
By her own merit?
by her own, she got her own scholarship. Yeah,
Nice.
so like my
Nice.
my GI Bill is gonna help her pay for room and board because the college is like 20 minutes away, but she wants the college experience for the first year or so.
Okay.
So she's gonna stay in a dorm. But yeah, so she's getting my GI Bill for 18 months. I'm sorry, because I split it down the middle between her and my son.
Okay.
My son, he's about to be 17. Um, he mentioned it about 2 months ago. We kind of talked about it briefly.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna revisit it when he turns 17. I can't enlist him
Okay.
because I'm not the recruiter at that school that he goes to. That was actually the
Mm,
school I was supposed to start recruiting out of if my
okay.
leadership would have let me go. So I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Because
Yeah, yeah,
now it's
yeah.
like, do I want another guy to recruit my son, or should I just let him go to the Air Force?
Mm. So, based on your experience, what do you think would provide a better quality of life?
I think we know the answer to that question.
We need to hear you say. I know what I feel, but I can't speak for you. I speak for self.
So it depends on, like I said, it depends on the unit too. But the quality of life, I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of tough because I've had a great quality of life in the Army. Other people have had
Mhm.
bad experiences in the Army.
Correct.
So I think my biggest thing is having somebody. I could build his packet for him and have him enlist and have the guy enlist him and get the credit for him. It's not about getting the credit. It's just like I don't know. He told me the other day that the Army is what he would want, but he also asked about the Air Force because he's heard the
Mhm.
stories about the Air Force, and it's
Yeah.
hard to compete with them. It's
Very.
the Air Guard here is offering $50,000 to $90,000 bonuses.
Damn. Yeah.
We're offering 20
Oh my
for
goodness.
two MOSs. That's it. It's the two MOSs that not a lot of people want. Like
For
it's a
the infantry
25
and 12
series
level?
job,
Oh, okay.
25 series job, and then mortarman. So it's like,
Damn.
how are we gonna offer like it used to be when I first started? It was five
Hmm.
different jobs, five different MOSs we offered a bonus for.
Okay.
88 Mike, 91 Bravo, or 91 Sierra. It was jobs that people would want.
Hmm.
Truck driver, mechanic. But now they dropped that. And now
Mm.
the state is pouring more money into the Air Guard. So it's hurting us because
Okay.
obviously since it's the Air Guard, they're getting money from the same place we are.
Okay.
But like the state is providing more funds for the Air Guard right now. So then we have
Mm.
to find different ways to convince these kids. Obviously, you still have the college. You
Correct.
have the college. You have the Montgomery GI Bill. You have the Montgomery GI Bill kicker. But that's for people who can score a 50 or above.
Yeah.
Do you have
That's
any idea how hard that is right now to find somebody who can do that?
I'm assuming very.
It's horrible. It's a struggle.
Yeah.
I'm tutoring two girls right now that don't even know how they and it's not I don't think it's all their fault.
Okay.
Um, I do think that it is a big chunk their fault because they're not because they have a math class
Mm-hmm.
and they're learning the basic. I know they're learning the basic math, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't know it. They don't know basic division or multiplication. They don't know the tens
Mm.
rule where like, oh, if you multiply 50 times 10, what do you get? And it's like,
Come
oh,
on. You got it.
so they didn't know how to do 4 times 2. And
Okay.
I'm like, I said, you're going to be an '09 Mike. If you don't know what '09 Mike is, that's somebody who enlists that scores below between a 21 and a 30. They can enlist with that score and they go to the tutoring at Fort Jackson till they get their score up.
Oh, okay. I was not tracking that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's open from like October till June usually, and then they shut them
Okay.
off. But the problem that caused this past year was filling up. They all these '09 mics were filling up all the training seats. So people who were actually
Mm,
qualified
couldn't
couldn't
go.
get in those positions. So now,
Damn.
like they're supposed to open those positions back up in October. More '09 mics, but I'm thinking that's not going to happen for a while because of what happened this
Yeah.
past year.
Damn. That's insane. I mean, it's a cool program.
It is, it
You
is.
know,
Like I
and
think
it
it
could
is.
help out a lot of people because I know even when I joined the first time, I didn't get a 50. I think I got a 48, and then I retook my test after I was an adult and learned some stuff, right? But
Hmm.
either way, that still would be somebody. Let's say like the Air Force. I think the score is 50, right, to join.
Yeah,
So then I wouldn't even qualify, and they could have lost a great potential future leader. So those programs can be really good, but at the same time, you gotta try a little. I mean, to get a 13, just write your name properly. You know,
yeah, yeah. Like it's bad. I had a college girl who I took twice.
college girl.
First time
Okay,
she scored an 8. Second time she scored a 13.
hey, you gotta try. You
Hmm.
gotta try to get those low scores. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I just don't understand it. But
Okay.
yeah, yeah. It's funny because there's a kid. It's crazy though because there's this kid that I'm working right now. He was at MEPS yesterday.
Hmm.
I had been working. I've been working him since January.
Hmm.
He failed the test. He's smart. He has like a 3.8 GPA in college.
Hmm.
I take giving him what we call the PICAT, which is the online test
Okay.
that you can take it home.
Hmm.
It's an online ASVAB test. But you have to verify it at MEPS. You have to verify your scores, means you have to go into MEPS after you take the PICAT. They give you 25 questions, and you can only get 3 of those wrong. It's
Okay.
the same questions that were on the test,
Hmm.
but you have to get the same answer to verify your score that you
Oh,
didn't cheat.
okay.
Um,
That's interesting.
well, there's a 10% of the people that take the PICAT end up having to take, like when they end up going to MEPS, they'll end up having
Hmm.
to take the ASVAB. It's just a
Mm.
weird system. I don't know why. Well, this kid ended up taking the ASVAB when he was expecting to do just 25 questions. So he
Oh.
panicked and he just clicked the answers and he got a 17. So
Mm.
I took him to MEPS again yesterday.
Hmm.
Well, the day before I dropped him off. He was at MEPS yesterday for the physical. And he scored a 59 on the ASVAB.
Okay.
So, I was like, thank goodness he was telling the
Hmm.
truth. He just panicked 'cause I was like, man, maybe this kid's feeding me bull crap and he's gonna bomb this test again. But no, he
Yeah.
did. He did well. He scored well. He just
Hmm.
got disqualified for Adderall that he had taken almost a year ago.
Yeah.
For
The
like
new
2 weeks.
Genesis system is a detriment to the military, I would
It's
say.
undefeated. You can't get
Yeah.
past it. There's nothing
Oh
that
yeah.
you can hide from that. I've learned that over the last year because we tried to scoop people in there,
Hmm.
thinking maybe Genesis won't find it. The only ones that Genesis will not find anything are anybody that from out of the country.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
The
And
guys from
let's
Jamaica and Africa that I've enlisted, clean, clean as a whistle.
come on in. Come on
Come
in.
on in, guys.
Come
That's
on
why
in.
I keep saying, hey, if you have your green card, come see me. Come see me. They don't even do what does suck is that we don't do. I think back in the day they might have done it, but now it's like if somebody doesn't have their papers,
Hmm.
we can't enlist them until they have that I-55 card. But like,
Okay.
there's so many people that want to join to
Hmm.
get citizenship.
Yes.
Why can't
Yes.
we do that? Why can't we do that? Why can't we offer that? For certain
Mm.
people, obviously there's certain situations, but I disagree.
Right.
I think that if this person was willing to serve our country, they
Hmm.
should be able to do that and get their citizenship along the way.
So I will say again, different times, different generations. During the peak of the war,
Hmm.
100%. You want to come? Boom! You're in the day before you deploy. They'll literally take you to an office. They'll ask you like three generic questions that they gave you the answers to, and
Right.
boom, boom, you're an American citizen now. And it's funny because it's something that they talk about. It's a thing called the 3R syndrome. Is the recruit, reject, recruit, right? And I mean, let me take that back. It's a reject, recruit, reject, which is initially you don't allow certain groups of people, right? And right now it's kind of like if you don't have papers or anything, basically if you're not undocumented in the United States, it will not allow you to go through the process, right? But then
Yeah.
in times of war, which is when I joined, so now that theory makes a little bit more sense. Everybody was coming in.
Everybody was coming in.
Everybody, you're American, you're American, you're
Yep.
American, real
Yeah.
quick. Everybody was getting it like Oprah, and
Yep.
now I guess it's gone back to that reject process where it's like,
Yes.
yeah, we're limited to a specific group of people. So that's crazy. So that's initially how it started with women and minorities, but now it's looking at we're looking into immigration and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
crazy that the past still comes to the present.
It is crazy how that works. It is. Like, and right now we're not at war. I mean, you hear the stuff going on in the news, you hear all this stuff going on.
Hmm.
You don't know what's going to happen in the future, but as of right now, we're not.
Hmm.
But you just don't know. It could change in the blink of an eye. But regulations, like the rules, this is one thing that is asked backwards to me.
Hmm.
You cannot enlist when you're taking Adderall, but when you're
Okay.
in, you could pop them shits like Skittles.
Really? You
Yeah.
got a plug or what? What are you
No.
telling me?
I have my good friend that's recruits on my team. He's been he's been going through withdrawal because nobody, like, every pharmacy is out of Adderall right now apparently.
Oh
So
wow.
he's been trying to get them, but like, yeah, like, you can take Adderall, you can take depression meds, you can take these meds while
Hmm.
you're in, but
Hmm.
to get in, you can't.
So I mean that does stem from the old times where people would have a lot of issues. They would
Yeah.
come in and they would blame it on the military, and now we're paying.
Now we're paying.
Well, if you're talking about millions and billions of dollars on compensation that was issues that the military did not create. So that's where that initial.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand why. I understand the genesis to, like, why they did that, because of that, to
Hmm.
alleviate having to pay that money on the back end.
Hmm.
I get it. Does it suck? Absolutely. Absolutely. As a recruiter, it sucks because you ain't hiding nothing. I mean, recruiters do some shady stuff to get people in, and
Hmm.
I'm terrified to do that. Like, there's ways around certain things
Hmm.
that these recruiters have learned, and they have
Yeah.
tried to teach me, and I'm like, nah,
Um,
man. And then I have my wife, who's my uh
Little angel on the side, right?
who just tells me, you will not do that, Brandon. Don't do that,
Hmm.
Brandon. And I'm like,
Mm.
all right, because there's times like where you're like, you feel like you're desperate and you need to get someone in. That's
Hmm.
the point where that'll determine what kind of recruiter you are.
Yes.
Are you going to be
Yeah.
that shady recruiter that does some shady stuff to get that person in, knowing, boom, down the road, it's going to come bite you in the ass?
Yes, and recruiting is people sometimes will downplay it, but we gotta understand that especially when it comes to recruiting, you all are the ambassadors of the organization. Like you are the representation of what that branch looks like. And if you start doing shady stuff, what is that telling that recruit that they can get away with in the United States military, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And people don't think about that. They don't
Yeah.
think about the long-term effect that their presence causes on people,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
that's where I hold a high standard for recruiters, especially because they y'all have different rules that the rest of the military doesn't, such as if you mess around with a recruit, automatically chapter, right?
Yeah.
And when I hear the stories of what these recruiters do to these recruits that are mainly male to female recruits,
Yes.
it's just insane. And it's just like, man, like they were probably seeking the military at a time that had a need, or they needed to benefit their life for the better, and all you did is use that to your advantage to take
Use it to
advantage.
your
That's,
advantage.
for me, that's borderline predatory,
It
and
is. It is.
so.
It is. It is. Like, and I've seen recruiters. I've
Mhm,
worked closely with a couple of those recruiters. And
mhm,
I also see how leadership handles it.
mm.
And sometimes it's not the greatest. It's
Mm.
not the greatest. Like that whole sweeping under the rug thing.
Yeah.
I've seen it and I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
wow. But like, honestly, after all the stories I've already heard from social media or from other people, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
surprise me. But
Yeah.
like, when I'm working with females,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what age they are. I
Mm-hmm.
am always making sure another recruiter's with me. If another
Okay.
recruiter is not with me, I ensure that that applicant feels comfortable. I say, are you comfortable? Like if I make you feel uncomfortable in any way, please tell me.
Mm-hmm.
I tiptoe I'm very cautious
Mm-hmm.
because of that. But I see other recruiters that just crack jokes and make sexual gestures to 17-year-old girls, and I'm just
Mm.
like, bro, what are you doing? So I'll say
Yeah.
something, but where it goes from there is not really my call.
Correct. Correct. But sometimes just bringing it up, like, hey, man,
Yep, and I have, and
hey,
I have.
hey,
I'll
you're
do it.
tripping.
I'll do it. I'm not afraid to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's unfortunate that's the world we live in, though. People will do that, and you can try your best to prevent it from happening, but it's gonna happen.
Oh yeah. So that leads me to my next question, which is, if you were king, I normally say for a day, but let's say if you're king for a month of your organization, what would you do? What changes would you implement?
Oh man. Well, I think the biggest one is trying to ensure that for one, the biggest thing I would like to do is I hear it all the time and I just experienced it recently. I told you about it is if you're a recruiter and you're able to recruit within an area that you live close to, I would try to move
Mhm.
that people closer to home because there's a lot
Okay.
of us that travel hour, maybe more,
Mm-hmm.
to area that we know nothing about
Mm-hmm.
when we could be more successful closer to home.
Okay.
Um, the the amount of supplies and training the amount of supplies or RPI we get, the RPI we get is garbage most of the time. It's a waste of
Mm-hmm.
money. We're wasting money on things that we should not be spending money on.
So what is RPI?
RPI is stuff that we hand out to our listeners or to potential people that are interested in listeners, or when we set up a table display, we're
Mhm.
handing out lanyards, pens, all this stuff, but they spend money on stuff that they just spent I don't know how much money on National Guard pizza boxes. We got 1,000 of them per team. Why do I need 1,000 pizza boxes? Oh, you're gonna go to the pizza shops and fold them. No, we're not, because half these pizza shops don't want us in there. But you're gonna spend that money on it. The pizza boxes were not successful last year, but you spent more money
Wow.
on them this year. And then the stuff that is successful, that works, that people love to get, they
Yeah.
either stop buying it or they're getting cheaper versions of it. T-shirts and hoodies.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving they're the cheap material this year, and we only get like eight of them, eight of them instead of the usual 30 that we get. They gave us eight per recruiter. I'm gonna go
Wow.
through that. I'm gonna go through that in a heartbeat. They just spend money where it shouldn't be spent, and it's
Okay.
just crazy to think about like the amount of money if you save that money and use it for just things that kids could use, or for big events that you could plan for high schools.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just there's different ways to use the money that I think that they should be thinking about. But we've thrown it out there. I've mentioned it, but it always
Mm-hmm.
gets that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just an E6. But
Yeah.
and put people in positions that you know that they're going to be successful.
Okay.
Um, and it's just, oh, we're gonna put you here, and it's like, use your head. There's so much more potential. Like there's people on my team that should be in marketing or should be here, but they'd rather throw them to the streets when they're not being successful in the streets instead of firing them right away. See where else they might be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also taking the another big thing is to taking these leaders say we care about your family life.
Mm.
They don't. I mean, they don't
They
like they'll
don't.
say they do, but they don't. Um,
Okay.
a lot of I so a lot of them don't. There's a
Mhm.
handful that do that you can tell. Like my boss right now, you can tell, and he's always
Mhm.
like he's out there trying to help us, and he's helped a lot of people who've had mental issues or just mental breakdowns and are having family troubles. He's been there and he's gotten them in contact with people that can help them.
Mm. Okay.
I've not seen many leaders that I've been under do that. They usually just
Mm.
like, here's a phone number, call it. He sees it through.
Mm. Okay.
Um, but there's the other leaders that are just like, oh, you have a family, you haven't seen them, but hey, you haven't got me an enlistment, so figure it out.
Mm. Okay.
And it sucks. I'm sure I obviously, since I'm successful, I don't
Mhm.
deal with it, but I see it.
Okay.
Um, but who knows? Down the road, I could be rolling zeros. You just don't know what could happen. Um,
Mhm.
and I fight hard not to roll zeros, but I've
Yeah.
rolled two. I've rolled two in the 15 months I've been a recruiter.
Okay.
Um, it's gonna happen because you're gonna have people disqualified that you. I've learned that nothing is a guarantee.
Mhm.
Nothing's a
Especially to the
guarantee.
Met gods. The Met
You,
gods
you get
decide.
the MIPS. Yep, you always gotta pray to the MIPS gods. The It's the biggest thing is that um yeah, and honestly I think the more ensuring that there's more um battalion based training. Like the only time we get together as a battalion is the end of year event.
Okay.
And I think that if we all got to if we had more than just one time a year where we got together, you could pick other recruiters' brains in other companies,
Mhm.
learn more stuff. Which what may not be working for you or what may be working for you isn't working for this person or vice versa, and you guys can kind of help each other out. It's just a
Yeah.
little bit more team. Recruiting is an individual based mission, but you
Mhm.
also have a team mission.
Mhm.
Like you want and you a state mission. So at the end of the
Yeah.
day, we're all working towards the same mission. And I feel like it's just too much. There's a lot of individuality a lot of individuals that don't want to work together.
Mm.
And it's something
Okay.
I see on my team. My team, like they don't want to work together.
Mhm.
And I've tried a lot to try to get the team to work together, but there's certain people that
Mhm.
just don't want to do that. And that's just the way it is. But um those are the biggest things where we spend our money, more training, moving people closer to home so that way their quality of life is better. In my
Mhm.
opinion, just little things like that can improve quality of life.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'm recruiting.
Mhm.
For me, it's for instance, the armory that I would have recruited out of if I would have moved to a different team is 5 minutes from my house. And I grew up in this area. So like I
That
would
would
be
make
able
sense.
to, yeah, I would be able to walk to my work. I'd be
Mhm.
able, if I had an event, I would be able to drive 2 or 3 minutes to the event, my
Mhm.
family to come with me. But no, I work in a place that's almost an hour away. So if I have an
Mm.
event, a late event, I'm not getting home till late.
Yeah.
Or if I have a event on the weekends, I got to drive up there
Mhm.
to be at that event on a weekend. And that's because the school year is the busiest time of year for us. So like
Yeah.
we just enjoyed 3 months of it not being as crazy,
Mhm.
but now school's picking back up. So now it's like boom, boom, boom. You got to be in these schools, and I got a new high school that I got to work at. So
Mm. Not
just
to
back to
mention that's the busiest part as a home life as well, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. So like, it's just a lot there, but yeah, that's really it.
All right. That's good. That's good. And so we've been hitting it hard for an hour and 23 minutes.
Yeah.
So what are some parting words of wisdom from Staff Sergeant Jacoby, Brandon, Sergeant Knucklehead?
Um, my biggest thing that I like to tell people is that you're not going to be successful if you're not willing to put in the work. Everybody's real quick to say I want to be successful and they think success is going to happen overnight. And they're not willing to put in the effort. And I like this is something that I preach to my team. I preach to my kids, especially my son, is that if you're going to be lazy, you're not going to see success. Things aren't going to be handed to you. You got to be willing to put in the work. And if there's something that you want, go after it. Put in the work to get it. Be that person that outworks everybody else on your team, and you're going to see the success, but it's not going to happen overnight. So you can't just, a lot of things that people do is they want that success. They want that instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to happen that way, especially in the military. Like you got to play the long game, but you have to be willing to put in the work each day.
Mm-hmm.
And my honestly, what I tell people is that get up every day. I get up at 4 in the morning. I get my workout in, and then I get my son ready. I get cleaned up. I get my son ready. I take him to daycare, and my day is already started.
Mm-hmm.
When probably 50% of everybody else are still in bed.
Yeah.
If not more than 50% of the people are still in bed.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be willing to put in that extra effort for you to be successful. And with social media, I would say post. Don't be afraid to post. Post as much content. It doesn't make a lot of people are afraid to do it, but if you want to see success on social media,
This guy. Yeah.
post.
Mm-hmm.
You may look at it and watch the video and be like, man, I shouldn't post this. This isn't post it.
Okay.
People question themselves, and the videos that I question myself about end up doing well. It's weird. But you're not going to learn and grow on social media if you don't post. And find something that interests you. Don't try to copy other people. People do well off that. I guess I shouldn't say that, but people do well off of copying other people's content or stitching other people's content.
Yeah.
But find something that is original to you.
Okay.
And that's the more you post, the better it's going to get. The more following you get, and it's just you got to give it time. People think like, and that's the instant gratification thing, is where you think, oh, I'm going to post this video, it's going to go viral. No, if you're new to like Instagram or TikTok and you post your very first video, you're going to get like 3 views on that thing.
Unless you're Sergeant Jacoby with a son that does this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, Alex has been in a bunch of my videos too. Now he's older now, so it's harder to get him in videos because he's too cool for that.
Yeah.
But all his friends know who I am, and they're always like Sergeant Knucklehead, and it's cool. But you got to post, and if you something like I want to like do offline, you and I need to talk about how this podcast thing works, because this is something I've wanted to do.
Yeah.
Down the road, not right now, but like when I get out of recruiting, I'd like to do podcasts. It's fun. I feel like it's something I would enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So maybe we can get offline and talk more about that down the road.
Hey, I have no issue with teaching, man. I have no issue with teaching when it comes to military or it comes to life.
Yeah.
When it comes to anything, teaching is what I get paid for to do now. Thanks to the taxpayers right now. But I have no issues with that. We're definitely going to do that, man. Well,
Okay.
I want to say thank you for coming on the show. And again, Sergeant Jacoby, Sergeant Knucklehead. You could find what's your social media stuff where people can find you.
So I'm on Instagram under SGT Knucklehead, and I'm on TikTok. I'm the same, and I have a Facebook that I just post videos on, and that's under my actual name, which is Brandon Jacoby. But I just post videos on that every now and then. But I'm mainly just TikTok and Instagram.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll make sure that we try to lead people that way, man. I appreciate you for coming on the show, and we will definitely have to do it again.
Absolutely, bro. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. Well, have a good one.
You too, man.
There you have it, folks. One of the greatest conversations that has been had on this episode. Staff Sergeant Jacoby is a family man, a working man, just one of us, entertaining y'all every single day that he possibly can. Congratulations to him and his family and his career and everything that he has going for himself. Please take the time to follow him on all social media Sergeant Knucklehead, SGT Knucklehead, on TikTok, on Instagram, and also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Support the channel, The Solutions Podcast. This is what we do, and I am out.